it's both extremes. Are you with me? One thinks that God is a disturbance in their lives. They think that God is an unnecessary baggage in their lives. They think that church commitment is too much. And so they would become part of a church, but they will refuse commitment. They think that the Bible is a big disturbance or some additional stress on their hectic schedule. There are people today who look at God, who see God as a liability rather than an asset. And so they say, if you want to be prosperous, then you need to have less of God. You need to have less of the church. You need to take matters into your own hands if you want to be prosperous. And isn't that what we can read in the book of Malachi in chapter 3, verse 14? During the time of the Old Testament, particularly in the time of Malachi, there were people who became disillusioned about God. They became doubters of God. And rather than pursuing God, they decided to drop God in their lives. Look at that. Look at their words in Malachi 3, verse 14. You have said it is futile to serve God. It's futile. It's senseless. It don't make sense. They don't connect. It's foolish to serve God. That is their words. They say, what did we gain by carrying out his requirements and going about like mourners? But now we call the arrogant blessed. Certainly the evildoers prosper. And so this is the kind of, these are people who think that God could never ever bless them. And so if God couldn't bless them, if God couldn't make them prosper, so why continue with God? And isn't it this is what is happening right now in the world? That more and more people are dropping God, discarding God, and refusing to follow God and believe the Word of God? More and more people are becoming like this. They want to distance themselves from God. They want to walk away as far as they could from God, because they see God as a liability rather than their asset to prosperity. And there are those who do not neglect God. There are those who do not separate from God, but they cling to God, but they exploit God. They exploit God. They are opportunistic. They use God for their own selfish advantage. We see that example in the book of John chapter 6 in verse 26. In John 6 in verse 26. I tell you the truth, you are looking for me. Because there were this unidentified group of men who previously saw Jesus preach and saw him made that miracle of feeding the thousands. And they themselves were able to eat. They got their own share of pandesal. They got their own share of tamales. Their own share of soul food. They were filled. They were happy. They were so satisfied. And so they decided to look for Jesus again, thinking that Jesus would make again that great miracle of feeding the thousands. And they finally they caught up with Jesus and they said, "Hey Jesus, you know what? We were looking for you." He said, "I tell you the truth, you are looking for me. You are looking for me not because you saw miraculous signs." Now, what about miraculous signs? Through miracles, people will know that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. Now, since they were not interested about miracles, therefore they were not interested to really know Jesus. They were looking for Jesus not because they were intrigued by his personality, but because they want food. They want stuff. They want blessings. And isn't it that's what people today also do? People are all clinging to Jesus. They're all clinging to God because they need a work, because they need a job, because they need some respite from their overly hectic schedule. They need some peace of mind so that they can engross more in their sins. There are people today who exploit God. And you know what these people who are exploiters of God do? After they get what they wanted, they will walk away from the Lord. That's what exploiters do. After using God, they will walk away from God. They will discard God, and they will seek to overthrow God. But you know what, brethren? That's not the way to be prosperous. The way to be prosperous is this. God, I want you. I want to know who you are. I want to know your will. I have needs. But I know you know them already. So I will not nag you anymore of my needs. I will not badger you anymore. I know you care for me. And I want you to know that I want to know you more. That it is you alone that I seek. You know, that's the kind of a mature faith. A mature faith is more interested in the giver than in the gifts. The immature person is always concerned about gifts. And that's what kids are. Kids are always into gifts. Once they get the gift, they walk away and never even bother to thank the one who has given them. That's childishness. That's immaturity. But you know what? We must change the manner by which we want to prosper. And the way to prosper is by obedience to His will. Number 3, our motives behind our efforts to prosper. Our motives behind our efforts to prosper. We need to change our motives. You need to change your purpose and reason why you want to be prosperous. In the book of James chapter 4 verse 3 says that the reason people do not receive is because they are asking with wrong motives. Look at that. James chapter 4 verse 3. When you ask, you do not receive because you ask with wrong motives. And what is the wrong motive? That you may spend what you get on your pleasures. In other words, people wanted peace of mind. They wanted healing and health. They wanted strength. They wanted a job. They wanted even to have a relationship so that they can pursue at the end their private pleasures. It is still the self. That is the one that is important, not God. And so this is not the kind of motive that will make us prosperous. If you are somebody who's looking for a job, what's your purpose? Why you want a job? If you are somebody who is seeking some kind of an enterprise or you want a relationship, what's your purpose? What's your purpose? What is your purpose? Why do you want to be prosperous? Do you want to be prosperous for the sake of being prosperous? Do you want to get something just for the sake of getting something? That is pride. What is pride? 1 John chapter 2 verse 16. The boasting of what he has and does. Rather, brethren, we must seek to be prosperous so that we can fully bless the work of the Lord.